Cloudflare had a bit of a boo-boo.
Essentially, Cloudflare sits in front of websites and does things like caching, DDoS protection. You can like run bits of code at the edge, as it's called, to like run them on servers closer to the users than the people actually using them for more speed, basically.
You know the internet?
Mm,
Yeah, there you
do.
go. Pretty much.
Well,
Imagine you're looking
10% of it.
the internet. Just behind that, there's Cloudflare.
Well, 10% of it,
10% of it.
which is still a lot of internet.
By
Especially
weight.
10%. Is that 10% of the total internet? 10% of like public-facing internet? Because
10% of traffic, I believe,
okay, all right.
which is still hefty.
That's fucking hefty.
And also that stat is at least like 5 years old now, so it might be more now.
Yeah,
When you have a service that is popular, an outage for it has quite a big effect, doesn't it, Corey?
yeah.
So, on the 18th
No, not really.
November 2025, they had a bit of a boo-boo where many popular websites just showed an error. And what they eventually tracked down the cause to is that it coincided with them doing an upgrade to a database system, which powered some of the features of Cloudflare, but certainly not all of the features of Cloudflare. But in my best attempt to summarize an actually rather complex issue, they were doing a set of upgrades to a database which ran over multiple nodes, and depending on which nodes had been upgraded or not, a certain query that ran every 5 minutes would generate either good or bad data. And by bad, I mean more data than the system that data was destined for was ever expecting to handle, and so it would crash. Now, this data happened to be things like bot detection features, which were intentionally designed to be rolled out to the Cloudflare's global network faster than most software updates, which would go through a rather long, intentionally slow cycle of testing on some test systems, then on a couple customers, and then more and more until they eventually roll out to the wider network, so that precisely issues like this could be caught before they take down the whole network, because the moment that you roll out the change and start seeing errors, then you can just stop rolling out that change until you figure out what went wrong. That's a great system, and it's been used to great effect. The particular data that caused this issue did not use it. It just went straight to the global network within, I believe, a couple of minutes. And if that data happened to be bad, then every single bot detection instance across all of Cloudflare's global network would just crash.
Right.
Rip. So I had the fun quickly. I'm reading when I was doing my research here. I was reading the Register's article on this, and they mentioned at the top, Cloudflare CEO Matthew Prince has admitted blah blah blah. Then for the rest of the article, they just refer to him as Prince, which when I was first doing glances through it, thought they meant the artist formerly known as, and got rather confused. Anyways, carry on.
Yes, so that was not ideal.
Not
and
ideal.
You know what's also not ideal?
What?
They did it again.
Well.
Yeah, about a couple of weeks after that, Cloudflare had another outage. Now, this one somewhat smaller in scope, and this one, interestingly enough, happened not as a direct result, but as an indirect result of them applying protections for the React security issue we mentioned just a few minutes ago. Because in the course of them applying it, they had to raise some memory usage limits in some of their internal security tooling software, and that triggered some errors in an unrelated bit of software, which they initially saw in just a test environment, and turned it off and proceeded to roll it out. It's a little bit more complicated than that. I am, again, oversimplifying a very complicated situation, but yep, that eventually ended up with many requests that made it to Cloudflare immediately having errors. In fact, I believe that it's because that they turned off some of their testing-only rules that then had downstream effect on some of the production rules, which caused the whole rules evaluation system to crash. So, another rather complicated one. I will say that for technically minded folks, the blog post on Cloudflare's website is very transparent about what went wrong And it's an interesting read if you're interested in this sort of thing.
Yeah, they're normally quite good at that. The blog in general is quite in-depth in them trying to tell you what they do without giving you all the trade secrets.
Particularly for when it goes wrong, they're very honest about how it went wrong.
And how it's definitely not going to happen ever again until it happens next time.
And to be inclusive, for those that aren't technically minded, a fun fact about this event is that Down Detector runs using Cloudflare. So if you wanted to check the status of Cloudflare on Down Detector,
Then it would have done a very good job.
Yeah, it was quite funny because I know at my workplace, when we were affected by Cloudflare, a lot of our colleagues all immediately flooded to Down Detector to check this. And then there was a load of screenshots of Down Detector being down, which just cracked me up during the day.